I was kneeling beneath the shower head, tightening the valve, when the bathroom door burst open with a force that sent a sharp gust of cool air swirling into the room. Expecting to see my wife, Ingrid, entering with her usual grace, I glanced up, but what I saw made my heart lurch in my chest. She stood there, completely bare, her chest rising and falling in quick, shallow breaths. Droplets of sweat glistened on her flushed skin, as if she had either run a great distance or come from somewhere she shouldn't have been. "I need to shower. Right now," she gasped, pushing past me so urgently that she nearly knocked me off balance. A frown creased my forehead. Ingrid was never one to rush, especially not into the shower with such desperation. I straightened up, wiping my damp hands on my jeans, a gnawing unease settling deep in my chest. "Can't you wait a moment?" I asked, my voice steady but edged with suspicion. She didn't answer. Instead, she twisted the shower knob to full blast, letting the hot water cascade over her like she was trying to wash something away, something she didn't want to be there. Something felt wrong. I turned to step out, giving her space, but as I moved, my gaze lingered for just a second on the curve of her thigh. Under the bathroom's dim light, I saw it, faint but undeniable. A mark, a red, distinct handprint, a handprint that did not belong to me. Time seemed to slow. My breath caught in my throat, and my pulse pounded in my ears as realization crashed over me, leaving me cold and seething. That mark was too large to be mine, too fresh to be from an accidental brush against anything. For a moment, I stood frozen, my mind scrambling for an explanation that wouldn't unravel everything I believed about my marriage. Had she fallen? Was it an old bruise? But deep down, I already knew the truth. Ingrid turned slightly, her fingers running through the streaming water, seemingly oblivious to the storm brewing inside me. "Victor, could you give me some privacy?" she called, her voice smooth, controlled, but I caught the slightest crack at the edges. I didn't answer. I simply stepped back, my hands trembling, my jaw clenched so tightly it ached. My mind reeled, replaying the last few weeks, the late nights, the hushed phone calls, the distance she had been keeping. I had convinced myself I was imagining things, that work had just been keeping her occupied. I should have trusted my instincts. A bitter taste coated my tongue as I backed out of the bathroom, my breaths heavy, my fists clenched. The lingering doubts, the quiet suspicions, the creeping unease that had shadowed our marriage, they all erupted into something raw and uncontrollable. The door creaked behind me, and I heard her voice again, softer this time, hesitant. "Victor." I didn't turn. I couldn't. If I did, I wasn't sure I could hold back the fury tightening in my chest. But then something inside me snapped. Spinning on my heel, I stormed back into the bathroom, my movement sharp, my control barely hanging by a thread. The door slammed behind me with a force that made Ingrid flinch. Her eyes widened, and she instinctively wrapped her arms around herself, as if trying to shield against the weight of my anger. "What the hell is going on, Ingrid?" My voice was low, dangerous, the kind that sent shivers down a person's spine. "Are you cheating on me?" Her mouth parted, but no words came out. Instead, her gaze flickered to the side, clouded with something I had never seen in her before. Guilt. "Victor, what are you talking about?" she stammered, but her voice wavered. I stepped closer. "Don't lie to me," I growled. "What is that on your thigh? Tell me, right now." A thick, suffocating silence stretched between us. Her lips trembled, but she still refused to speak. That silence was an answer in itself. A bitter, merciless clarity settled over me. The truth wasn't just hanging in the air, it was written all over her. The marks on her skin, the guilt in her eyes, the way her breath hitched her breath caught as she frantically searched for an excuse, a way to escape the inevitable confrontation. She had deceived me, and as the cold truth settled into my veins like frost, something else ignited within me. This wasn't just about betrayal. It was about retribution. I know you've been with someone else, I said, my voice low and measured, though fury smoldered beneath the surface. My gaze remained locked onto hers, unwavering. This marked Ingrid. How long has this been happening? For a fleeting second, her mask cracked. Panic flickered in her eyes, a brief and desperate moment of vulnerability. She looked as if she might collapse under the weight of her guilt. But then, just as quickly, she forced the emotion away, her expression hardening as she stepped forward, as if trying to seize control of the situation. "Victor, please," she began, but I had no patience for her deceit. "Stop lying," I roared, my voice crashing against the bathroom tiles. "I saw the handprint, Ingrid. I saw the evidence. Don't insult me by pretending I didn't. Do you take me for a fool? Do you really think I can't see the truth staring me in the face?" Her face twisted, and for the first time, I saw something new in her gaze, fear. It was too late for denials, too late for apologies. The damage was already done. "Victor, she stammered, but I was finished listening to her empty justifications. "I want the truth," I said, my tone unnervingly calm, my words precise and deliberate. "How long has this been happening? Who is he? Tell me everything." She took a step back as though the weight of my demand had physically pushed her. Her fingers trembled, and she cast her gaze downward, searching for some lifeline, some way to manipulate her way out of this. But I was beyond her games now. I can't," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "I can't tell you. It's complicated." "Complicated?" A bitter laugh escaped me. "You think this is complicated? No, Ingrid. You made a choice, a simple one, and now you're going to deal with the consequences. I never wanted to hurt you," she insisted, her voice cracking with desperation. "Victor, I never meant." "Don't," I cut her off sharply. "Don't tell me you never meant to hurt me. You already did." The fury in my voice was no longer raw. It was cold, controlled, lethal in its certainty. "You went behind my back. You lied. You sneaked around like a coward. And now you stand here acting like you're the victim? What exactly am I supposed to believe, Ingrid? What excuse could you possibly have?" Her lips quivered, and this time, real tears pooled in her eyes. But I felt nothing for her now. No sympathy. No regret. Just a deep, hollow void where trust used to be. "I'm sorry, Victor," she whispered, but the words rang empty, meaningless. "It just happened," she added weakly. I repeated her words, my anger now a quiet, suffocating weight. "It just happened?" "No, Ingrid. It didn't just happen. You chose this. You chose him. You chose to betray me." I took a step forward, my voice dropping to a menacing whisper. "Now, you're going to face the repercussions of your choices." Her complexion turned ashen. "Victor, please," she begged, panic seeping into her tone. For a fleeting moment, something stirred within me. Pity, sorrow, maybe even a distant echo of the love I once felt. But then, the memory of that handprint, the gut-wrenching weeks of doubt, the silent betrayals in her every movement came rushing back. No, she didn't deserve compassion. "I want the truth," I stated, my voice firm. "Who is he?" Her lips parted, then clamped shut as if she were waging an internal war. But there was no escape now. Finally, in a near whisper, she admitted, "His name is Lars. He's a co-worker." The name struck like a blow to my gut. My mind raced back to moments I had met her colleagues. Polite greetings, casual conversations. Had he been there, smirking behind my back, shaking my hand while secretly touching my wife? "How long?" I demanded. "A few months," she confessed, her voice barely audible. A few months. While I had been coming home, sharing stories about my day, making plans for our future, she had been betraying me with him. "I didn't want it to happen like this," she insisted, her voice cracking. "I was going to end it, I swear. Victor, I never meant to hurt you." Her words only fueled the fire inside me. You didn't want to hurt me? I scoffed. That's your excuse? She flinched. This wasn't just about heartache anymore. This was about treachery, about justice, about consequences. I took a slow step back, inhaling deeply, letting the full weight of her deception sink into my core. My mind was already calculating, strategizing. I wasn't going to be the kind of man who confronted his wife and simply moved on. No, Ingrid had made her decision, and now she would understand what it meant to lose everything. You think I'll just forgive you? My voice was cold, detached. That I'll shout, break down, then somehow let this go? Her lips parted, but no words came. Well, that's not going to happen. I exhaled slowly, my decision firm. You betrayed me, Ingrid. Now, you'll understand what it feels like when trust is shattered. She reached for my arm, desperation in her touch, but I yanked away, my expression carved from ice. Victor, please don't do this. But it was too late for pleading. Without another word, I turned on my heel and left, leaving her standing in the bathroom, vulnerable, not just in her exposed form, but in the weight of her guilt. In the days that followed, Ingrid tried everything to convince me she was remorseful. She apologized repeatedly, her voice raw with desperation. But I wasn't interested in apologies. My focus was singular, making sure she fully grasped the gravity of her betrayal. I played my hand carefully. No outbursts, no rash decisions. I became cold, distant, methodical. And when she finally left, I ensured that her world crumbled along with her lies. Anonymously, I sent a message to Lars's wife, detailing the affair with irrefutable evidence. The fallout was swift and merciless. Ingrid's secret was no longer hidden. Her deception, once neatly tucked away, lay in ruins. I had always imagined revenge to be loud. Screaming matches, shattered glass, a storm of rage. But true vengeance? True vengeance was quiet. It was precise. It was control. And as I sat in my apartment, watching the sun dip below the horizon, a peculiar calm washed over me. Ingrid had tried to take everything from me, but in the end, I was the one who walked away stronger. She had learned the hardest lesson of all. The truth always comes to light.